But knowing that she's 17, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer. The beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, today I am starting a new kind of reading vlog, more specifically a reading challenge. I got the idea for this challenge from Nerdy Nat Reads, and Nat is one of my favorite booktubers on this platform. She does lots of great reading challenges and readathons, and I highly recommend you check out her channel if you're not already subscribed. So, for this specific reading challenge, I'm going to be trading screen time for reading time. More specifically, I'm going to be tracking how many times I pick up my phone, and for every pickup, I have to read a page. So I've already tracked all of last week's pickups and will be using that to frame how many pages I need to read this week, which might already be a mistake because last week was the week I was on vacation, which is why for Monday, I have to read 229 pages. And I can already tell that I'm in a little bit of trouble. But any pages I don't finish today, I'm going to roll over till tomorrow. So for this reading challenge, I'll be working my way through my library reads. First up on the docket is The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. I read the first 15 pages last night, technically before this challenge started, and I've only read 10 pages since. So I still have 219 pages to go. The good news is if I read 219 pages, I'll be almost all the way through the entire book. So that's good. And it's already 8:30 at night, so I better get started. I'll check in with you guys once I've done a little bit more reading. Hello everyone, it is now Tuesday evening, and I am just checking in to let you know how yesterday went. As you may recall, my goal was 229 pages, and I didn't even come close. I did about half. I got to 110, but after the day I had yesterday, honestly, I'm surprised I even got that much. The last couple days of the month, the last week really of the month is my busiest time at my job because it's the only time of the month I have a firm deadline, which is the end of the month. And being gone for the majority of that last run up and coming back on the last day of the month with a week's worth of work to catch up on and have to have done by the end of the day was a nightmare scenario. But it also meant coming home and being like really mentally fried and frazzled and trying to cram in all of the tasks that I usually try and do in my evenings. I was just talking with my partner actually, and I mentioned that I always seem to give myself just one too many things to do every single day. And so I'm in the evenings, I'm going from task to task to task to task to task, like it's a job almost. And yesterday I just ran out of time for reading. I didn't even write yesterday, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to because I was so mentally fried from work. But anyway, long story short, I didn't hit my 229 goal. I did 110. Which is about my daily average. But my daily average is not what I am trying to accomplish here. I am trying to push myself. That's the whole point of this exercise. So my goal for Tuesday is 149, way more manageable. Thank God. So I've done about 30 pages so far, and I'm going to get in bed now and read the remainder of that. I don't know that I'm going to be able to roll any over from yesterday, but my goal is to finish The Color of Magic this evening and maybe get a little bit of another book read for another challenge started, and that'll comprise at least 119 more pages. That's where I'm at. As for The Color of Magic, I realize I haven't even talked to you yet, and I'm about 60% of the way through. This is the first book in the Discworld universe, I believe. I'm pretty sure. The Discworld is a expansive series of novels, I think like more than 30 books by Sir Terry Pratchett, and it's just a much beloved staple of fantasy, but it's also like comedy, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, and in that way it's a little bit cozy. And I have noticed that I'm just like, about the coziness, but it's very charming in its like goofiness. And so I think that is much more to my taste than some of the other cozy fantasies I've attempted to read. And the fact that it is so beloved and so expansive, and something I feel like all fantasy readers should pick up at some point, having never read it myself before. But in this particular book, I don't know what to call it, because it almost seems like it's a set of 3 short stories, or 4, I guess it would be 4, about a failed wizard who is tasked with accompanying this kind of wide-eyed tourist who is coming to this continent and seeing all its splendors for the very first time. And he has all these preconceived notions about how the world is supposed to be and who heroes are and all of this stuff, and it gets him into heaps of trouble. And so there's 4, I don't know if they're short stories or, they're about 60 to 80 pages each of their misadventures, their wacky misadventures. I am about halfway through the 3rd one right now. And like I said, I'm going to try and finish that out. And like I said, it's charming. It's just so funny. So I'm going to get in bed and finish it and mark it off my list. My goal for tomorrow is to start All Systems Red by Martha Wells. It's another novella. So another short one. I don't know if I'll finish it tomorrow, but I might. I don't know how many pages. I don't know what my page goal is for tomorrow yet. I haven't looked. Hopefully the 2 come close together and I'll have an excuse to finish it all in one day. So that is my goal. I'm going to go hopefully finish The Color of Magic right now, and then tomorrow start All Systems Red. So far for this challenge, I've only read 140 pages out of 370. So not going great, but for my first time and for everything that I endured yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and not stress about it. And maybe sometime later this week I can catch up on those pages from Monday that I slacked off on. But I'm going to go get in bed now and do some reading, and I will check in with you tomorrow. Hey y'all, it is now Wednesday. And I've got some good news and some bad news. So yesterday when I left you, my goal was to finish out The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett and maybe get some extra reading done in something else to try and catch up on my pages. I actually misspoke yesterday as well. It wasn't 149 pages that I needed to read. It was 151. Not a big change. I don't know where I got 149, but 151. The bad news is it took me forever to finish that book for some reason, and I only ended up with 130 pages. So I fell 21 pages short of my goal. So that's 2 days in a row that I didn't hit my page count goal. But fortunately, today I had a really great reading day. So for last Wednesday, I had 140 pickups, which means I had 140 pages to read. And fortunately, that was almost the exact length of the first entry in the Murderbot Diaries series, All Systems Red by Martha Wells, and I devoured that novella. Oh my gosh, I am so glad I read it. If you've been living under a rock like myself, the Murderbot Diaries follow a sort of android that was manufactured by the company as a security bot. And they are routinely contracted out to basically provide security services for planet surveys and mining operations and whatnot. However, recently, this particular android has hacked the module in its brain that controls its actions, and it is essentially a free agent. However, instead of going on a killing spree like you might expect, Murderbot really isn't interested in all that. They just want to be left alone, away from humans, and consume media, TV mostly. Unfortunately, it can't do that because, as you would expect, the latest job that Murderbot is on goes terribly wrong. And I just loved this so much. I loved Murderbot. I really loved seeing the dynamic of a sentient android with free will and free reign and humans who are struggling to see it as a sentient thing with free will and free reign, but they know that it is, and having a controlling module is wrong because it's sentient and it has free will. I really liked that. It's very classic, but it was from the android's perspective, and from Murderbot's perspective, it doesn't want necessarily to be seen as human. It doesn't want anything to do with human emotions. It just really wants to be left alone. And I thought that was so fun and fascinating, and a new, for me, play on that very classic setup. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. I read it so fast. I will be for sure continuing the series and hunting down physical copies for my library. That was 141 pages. So just by reading that book alone, I completed my page count goal. Yay, thank God, 3 days in and I finally hit it. So there's that. But there's still a problem with I am 140 pages short from the previous 2 days. Fortunately, I was so energized by reading Murderbot that I immediately went and picked up another book. This one I am reading for another reading challenge, and that is The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. And I won't get into it too much here because I am reading it for another video, but also it is the second book in the Sholomance series, and it picks up right where it left off in A Deadly Education, and I don't want to spoil anything. After I read A Deadly Education, I was so intrigued by the ending and so entranced by the story that I went out and immediately bought the rest of the trilogy. And as soon as they arrived, I immediately opened this book because I needed to know what was going to happen. I convinced myself to finally put it back down, but I can't resist anymore. So I read the first 38 pages of The Last Graduate this evening. So that brings my deficit down to 101 pages. And I'm confident that I can smash the rest of this challenge. So for now, I've got a little work to do. I've got to get some writing done and I've got to film another video, but my goal is, after all that is said and done, to get back in bed and read a little bit more. So tomorrow my plan is to start The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. That is my next library read. It's another short one, so I'm anticipating being able to get through it pretty quickly. I believe this one is kind of like a climate change story with magic, so kind of spooky for the Halloween season, just not in the way you might expect. But I will check in with you guys tomorrow and let you know if I manage to read any more tonight and make up some of the ground that I've lost, and also let you know how I'm doing with tomorrow's pages. Hello everyone. It is now Thursday evening, and as you know, yesterday I actually managed to hit my page count goal. Yay! And I did a little bit of extra reading to try and eat into some of that deficit. Today, Thursday, my page count goal is 140 even. I've had kind of a crazy day that was not conducive to getting a lot of reading done. But I did manage to get 46 pages of The Nature of Witches read, which is about the first 10%. So let's talk about it. This book is already, even within the first 45 pages, a comment on the climate and the climate disaster. And we are in like a parallel Earth where witches are responsible for maintaining the atmosphere and the climate and managing like the weather patterns and whatnot. However, as the years have gone on, those without magic, known as shaders, have grown complacent and, as in real life, have dug too greedily and too deep into the Earth's resources and, in this world, the magic that maintains the atmosphere and the climate. And so the Earth is kind of reaching a critical mass where there are more and more dangerous weather patterns happening, and the witches are struggling more and more to maintain it, and it is actually killing them at a much higher rate. Our main character is Clara, who has magic that sets her apart because it is not tied to one specific season. She can actually control magic of all the 4 seasons, and she is the first in 100 years to be born with this power. Her magic is so powerful that it was responsible for the deaths of some of her loved ones, and it has generated a healthy fear and aversion to using her magic. But because of the climate crisis, she's needed, and that's kind of where I'm at. This is another situation where I really need to be checking more thoroughly into the books that I'm reading, because it took me until about page 35 or 36 to realize that this is a YA when it finally came out that Clara is 17, which made me feel better, because honestly in those first couple of pages I was like, man, this character is kind of melodramatic and a little bit selfish in her motivations. But knowing that she's 17, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So I'm glad it is a YA. Otherwise, I may not have gotten very far in this book knowing that the main character was behaving that way. But as a 17-year-old, it makes way more sense. I feel kind of mid on it. Again, the main character really early on, I was like side-eyeing her. So we'll just have to see how it progresses from there. I like the concept of witches' magic being tied specifically to the seasons and how it waxes and wanes and all of that as the years go. Find that very interesting. So I've got just over 100 or just under 100 pages left to read. I don't know that I'm going to hit it today, to be honest with you. I've got to get some other work done, and it's already quite late. But I did take a nap, so maybe that'll push me to stay up a little bit later and get more than I would have done. But I will leave you with that for this evening, and I will check in with you tomorrow and let you know where I ended up. Hey y'all, checking in for a quick reading update. But first, how do you like my new curtains? These are the curtains I ordered after we got back from Nashville, and as you can see, I chose them for their aesthetic. Tomorrow morning will be the first test of whether or not they efficiently block out the easterly rising sun. It's better than nothing, which is what we had before. So I'm excited about that, but also it gives me this neat little backdrop from which I can film. So that's a bonus too. But I have a reading update for you. Yesterday, my goal, if you recall, was 154 pages based on my pickups, and unfortunately, I did not meet it. I probably could have, but it was already just too late in the evening. I did read 106 pages, so not bad, and that puts me at just over 25% of The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. Hey! Fortunately, the curtains are also a new thing to keep my cat away from. And unfortunately, I'm not really loving it because while the magic system, the nature of magic in this world is all nature-based, abides by the turn of the seasons. And I think that's really cool, but unfortunately it just doesn't get a lot of expansion. But to be honest with you, that's true of pretty much everything in this book. Everything feels superficial. The characterization, the relationship that is developing between our main character, Clara, and this older boy who is supposed to help train her to use her magic. The impetus for them training together, it just doesn't feel very well justified. It all just seems very base level, like the author just put in the minimal amount of effort to get these two characters or to move the plot in the direction she wants it to go. It doesn't feel like justifying it to the reader was not a priority. So that's a little bit annoying. Get out! On the other hand, it is very easy to read, but it also could be because I know I don't need to read that deeply because there's nothing really to parse in the narrative. Today's goal is an even 100, which I'm not too surprised by. That last Friday was the day after we got back from Nashville and we were doing a lot of laying in bed and resting. So an even 100 words, but I am now down by quite a bit. So for the week, I am now down 149 pages. So I've got a lot of reading to do, and I haven't even looked at what my pages for tomorrow and Sunday will be. So I'm going to try and get a little bit of reading done now. I have had kind of a long day, unfortunately. I won't get into too much into it, but I am fried, completely fried, and I have spent most of the evening. First, I put up the curtains, then I made dinner on our brand new stove because we had to have our range completely replaced. So we've got a brand new stove, and I made dinner on it. And then I just have been laying in bed for like the last hour and a half, just like decompressing, and I was really tempted to not do anything this evening. Friday nights are usually my nights. I allow myself to slip into the void, but I've got some writing to do, and if I have to be working anyway, I may as well update. So I'm gonna prioritize writing first, and if it turns out that I only get like 50 pages read today, then it is what it is. But as far as this challenge encouraging me to read more than I usually do, so far it's not working that great. I think if I try this challenge again, I will have a reward and a punishment. In fact, that might be a good idea for any reading challenges I undertake in the future, where there's a reward. Like if I beat the challenge, I can go to the bookstore and spend $50. And if I don't, then I'll have to think of a punishment. It's been a learning experience for sure. But I'm going to go get some writing done, and then I'm going to try and get some reading done. Like I said, the great news is that this book is really, really readable, even if I'm not really enjoying it. Unless I just like get back in bed and pass out, I should be able to get a good chunk of that. So I will check in with you most likely tomorrow morning and let you know how it went. Hello everyone. It is now Saturday evening and I have been very naughty and I haven't been reading. Last night I was supposed to get 100 words on the day and I ended up with 31, largely because I decided to DNF The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. It was just too superficial for my taste. Every page introduced concepts or ideas or a plot element or a relationship development or our main character's inner thought process that just dropped in to keep the pages turning rather than with any real thought or care or any plans to make them mean anything. And maybe they did later on, but it just felt so superficial. And I think that's partially because it's a YA, which is not to say that YAs can't be deep and meaningful, but I don't think that was the intent this author had for her book, which is a shame because I think she could have done something really special with it. But oh well. So I DNF'd it at like 30%. And then I picked up, right before I went to bed, I picked up The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song and read the first few chapters of that. I didn't realize this was also a YA. I thought it was an adult, to be honest with you. But she mentioned a male character who is a few older than her at 19 or 20. So it's a YA. And to be fair, I could tell pretty quickly that it reads like a YA as well. The catalyst of events are moving very, very quickly, obviously, to get into the meat of the plot. I'm at about 10% now in that one, and I won't go too much into it because I'm reading this for a different vlog, but I fear that there will be similar issues with surface level, superficial introduction of plot elements that end up not being really well integrated. But we'll see. I do think that the author is rushing through the introductory setup to get into the more interesting parts, particularly because this is a Mulan retelling, or at least inspired by the story of Mulan, and so we all know how it starts. We don't need to rehash it. So in some ways, I appreciate that she's like, let's just get on with it. I personally appreciate a little bit more character introspection and explanation of the culture and why the history and all of that, but whatever. We will see how that progresses. Like I said, I'm reading that for another vlog and I will get more into my thoughts there. But my page count goal for today is 124. So far I've read about 30 of that. I do anticipate hitting it, but right now I have got to get to work on writing. I spent pretty much the first 10 hours of my day alternating between laying in bed and playing video games, and then going back and laying in bed and then playing video games. And anyway, it's just been one of those days, and I think it's partially because this week was so trying mentally. That said, I do plan on getting in bed and finishing out those 90 or so pages that I have left to read. The good thing about books like The Night Ends with Fire is that I can usually read them pretty quickly. Whether I finish them is an entirely different story, but I can usually at least get through them fast. I will leave you with that. I may check in later, but I do have quite a bit of writing to catch up on, so I'm going to do that for a couple of hours, and then we will just see how my evening goes. But so far, this challenge has been kind of a letdown because I haven't really enforced it at all. So I think if and when I do other reading challenges, I'm going to introduce a reward and punishment system, and I think that will be really fun. So stay tuned for that. But for now, I'm going to get some writing done, and I will check in with you later once I've done some more reading. Hello, everyone. It is now Saturday evening, and I am coming to you because I realized after my last update that the 2 books I am currently reading are for a different vlog, which leaves me with nothing to talk about in this vlog, and I decided that I should probably rectify that. So I had to pick another book, a third book to read to round out this vlog. And so I went to my bookshelf and I was like, I have to pick something, but it has to be short because I want to try and finish it between today and tomorrow. So I went to my bookshelf and I picked out the shortest one that I own physically, which is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. It's about 250 pages. And what I do know about this book, I had tried to read it like a year ago, and I remember getting through like the first 80 pages pretty quickly. We already know that I love T. Kingfisher. Every book she writes, I will consume with a vengeance. I think if I look at my book tracker, you can see that most books Most T. Kingfisher books I read are consumed in like 1 or 2 sittings. So I feel pretty sure that I'll be able to get through this. And if I do, that'll make up a huge chunk of the page count that I am falling desperately behind on. Unfortunately, most of my evening was sucked away by writing. I had a really tough writing night. But that being said, my goal, as ludicrous as it sounds, is to try and finish this before I sleep. Now, it may be 2 a.m, but that's my goal because I've got a busy day tomorrow. That's my goal, and I will most certainly update you in the morning. I'm not going to get out of bed and do it tonight, no matter if I finish or not. So, gonna get into this, and I will let you know my thoughts. Hello, everyone. It is time for what is probably going to be my last reading update of this vlog. When I left you last night, I had quite a bit of reading to catch up on, and my intent was to do that with Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. And I am pleased to say that I did finish Nettle and Bone, just not last night like I had hoped. I got about to the 50% mark, about 122 pages, and by then it was like 1:30 in the morning, and I knew I wasn't going to finish another 120 pages. So I decided to break for the night and then get up in the morning and finish, which is exactly what I did. But how does that help me in terms of my page count? As I mentioned yesterday, my page count goal for the day was 124, and with 122 that I read in Nettle and Bone, plus a few pages in The Last Graduate, and about 30 pages in The Night Ends with Fire, I did go over that page count goal. I ended up with 151. So I met my goal for the day. So that was Saturday. For Sunday, my goal is exactly 150 pages. So that was Saturday. For Sunday, my goal is 150. And I'm pleased to say that I got the majority of that by finishing Nettle and Bone with 118 pages. But I haven't even gotten a chance to talk to you about Nettle and Bone yet, so I'm going to talk about that first. For those of you who don't know, I love T. Kingfisher. I will read anything she writes. I've never rated anything she's ever written less than a 3-star. But what I will say for Nettle and Bone is I really liked the first 25%. I really liked it. I really liked the darkness and the impossibility of the tasks she was given and how our main character Mara overcame them, and how we learn what set her on this path. Unfortunately, after that, once we catch up to the present day, and get started on the actual quest, it kind of lost me a little bit. Not lost me, I understood everything that was happening, but I didn't feel like it was quite as magical as those first 60, 65 pages. I'm not really sure how to describe it. I just wanted a little bit more of that dark fairy tale feeling that we got in the first part to linger, and it kind of didn't. It became a quest story, which is fine, and it was very charming in the way that all of T. Kingfisher's writing is, kind of cozy, dark, fairy tale-esque. It just didn't hit the sweet spot for me that the first 60 pages did. Overall, I'm a big fan. I love the story. I love the characters. I love how small the goal is. It's very personal to Mara and no one else, and yet she manages to gather people to her who also care and who are also putting their lives on the line for this quest that really doesn't affect them because she is so passionate about it. I love that aspect of it, but there was something magical in that first 65 pages that faded away the further we got into it. Still, big fan. Will continue to read literally anything T. Kingfisher writes. I think I'm gonna sit with it a little bit, but it's sitting at about a 3.75, a 3.5, 4. I'm somewhere in that range. I'm not quite sure yet, but I have to sit with it a little bit and see if my expectations not being met is truly worth dinging it, or if I'm just being too full of myself and I should just rate it higher. So that is Nettle and Bone. Again, love T. Kingfisher. I love how cozy everything she writes is. Even her horrors, even her dark fairy tales, they all just feel very cozy. And I love that. I love that I can stay up late in the middle of the night with just my lamp set on the lowest setting, just trying to see what comes next. I love the way that her books make me feel. Even when I am taking a step back and looking at them critically and finding other things about them, I still love the way they make me feel. So there is that. So that gives me 118 pages on the morning. Unfortunately, I don't know that I'll be reading anything else today because I have so much to do. So much to do. I've got some homework that I've got to tackle. I've got to edit this video. I've got some writing and just I've got a lot to do, and it's already afternoon. So this is the last update you get. Then I will have finished this vlog short 223 pages and only having hit my daily page count goal twice out of 7 days. So that's a little embarrassing, but this is my very first reading challenge. I think I can cut myself a little slack. I learned a lot about the process, namely that when you're short your page count goal, they stack up a lot faster. I mean, I was reading every single day, but those 30 pages here, 50 pages here, they stack up so fast, and I ultimately ended up over 200 pages short, which is not something I'm going to be able to achieve today. Even if I do read like another 50 pages to hit my daily goal, the weekly goal is out the window. So that's interesting. That's something that if I ever do this challenge again, I'll be like more cognizant of. And then secondly, the other thing I learned is that I need to have some sort of reward and punishment system to more encourage me to hit the daily goals, because just relying on my own motivation is clearly not enough. So I'm going to dwell on that a little bit. I don't think I'm going to do this specific challenge for a little while, but even for similar challenges, I think implementing a system of rewards and punishments will really help motivate me. Like maybe the punishment is to read a book by an author that I normally don't like, or read the sequel to a book that I hated, or something like that. Or something else I thought of that might be fun is I have to buy every book that I read during the vlog and didn't, or something. I don't know, but that's something I'm thinking about implementing for future challenges. And the last thing that I learned is that I just need to plan these vlogs a little bit better, because I ended up in the middle of towards the end of the week, as you saw, accidentally picking up a book for a different vlog that I couldn't really talk about in this one because I was saving it, and I just needed to plan that a little better. But as I get used to the system of reading and filming and planning out challenges and scheduling videos and all of that, I think I'll get better at that too. It's all just one big learning experience. But the most important thing is I had a lot of fun. I finished 3 books. All three of them were short, actually. One was a novella and 2 were very short novels. But I finished 3 books. That's the first time I finished 3 books in a long time, in a week. I don't know if I've ever finished 3 in a week. That aside, I didn't let myself go a single day without reading, even on Friday, which is normally a big black hole of productivity for me. So there is that. And I've got some great ideas of vlogs I'm going to do in the future, more reading challenges. So I hope you look forward to them. For now, I'm going to sign off and get to work because I've got too much to do. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. I would so appreciate it. In my next video, I have a 3x3x3 where I plan to discuss tropes. In my last video like this, I did authors and I discussed 3 authors that I will always read from, 3 authors I will try again, and 3 authors I will never read from. And I'm looking to do something similar with tropes this time around. So I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.